Welcome back to Brother Bears, everyone. I'm your host, Jack Pollaby. This is my older brother and co-host, Brian Pollaby.
Welcome back, guys. I hope you had a lovely 4th of July.
I just want to say to all the listeners out there, no, we still do not have theme music. Deal with it. Tonight is our second episode. We'd like to thank all our dedicated listeners, and we are grateful for all the feedback that we've received. The most common feedback that we got from you listeners out there was, the show is good, but Jack is clearly the star. Brian needs to talk less so that he doesn't get in the way.
I'm going to work on that this week.
He's going to work on that for a while. Tonight, we're hoping to bring in our resident Bruins expert, Tommy Ragno, joining us later in the program. Brian attempts to learn the difference between listeners and viewers.
It's challenging, very challenging.
But tonight, we begin with Brian's new groundbreaking Facebook theory.
So, Jack, I have a question for you. Have you ever met a girl at a party?
Sure.
And you guys are talking, hitting it off, and the next day she friends you on Facebook. Has this ever happened to you?
Sure.
What do you think is going through your mind at this point in time? What is the girl thinking? What is the sequence of events for our listeners who are maybe older and not part of the Facebook generation, or those who are following along? What would you say?
First of all, this is a great sign. The girl has taken the initiative to friend me on Facebook. She has gone out of her way, remembered my first and last name, attempted to friend me on Facebook, and succeeded. I think she has done a wonderful job, and I'm beginning to get very positive as to what the future outlook would be.
I'm pretty shocked that this is your answer, because the first time we discussed this, a girl friended me on Facebook, and I instantly said, oh, she's interested in me. And you were like, oh, no, Brian, like, that doesn't mean that. She might have just enjoyed talking to you and wants to be friends with you. So now you're backtracking.
My rational advice that I give to you is spot on. You asked me what's going through my mind if a girl friends me on Facebook. A girl friends me on Facebook, I'm thinking things are going great. She clearly, is very, very interested. But from a rational point of view, I don't really think it means that much. I think that it's not, girls don't see it as a big deal to friend.
So what we're getting at is girls interpret friending us, and we interpret getting a friend request in a very different manner.
We think it's a big deal. They think it's friend zone material. We see it very differently than they do.
Okay. I'm glad we've hashed that out. We have our guest, Tommy Ragno, on the show in a little bit, but for all of you who don't know him, I just want to set the scene a little bit. So, Jack, can you please explain to the listeners a little bit about our upcoming guest? For instance, it's a Monday night in December. Tommy has a final the next day. The Bruins are playing the Winnipeg Jets. What's Tommy doing?
I just want to say for the listeners, so for those who don't know Tommy Ragno and the legend that is Tommy Ragno has skipped formals to watch regular season Bruin games. Tommy Ragno has missed weddings, birthdays, whatever he has to in order to follow his Bruins as closely as possible. That is why he is our resident Bruins expert.
Hey, Jack, I know Tommy's been going through some dark times lately in his life. What do you expect him to say when he comes on the show?
Look, I mean, I can't honestly say I'm happy to be here. This has been a tough time for me. It's been a tough time for all Bruins fans, if I'm being honest. And I'm happy to do the favor for Jack, especially since he has to carry the show all by himself. And, I feel bad for him for that. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Preparation and hard work. That's what have made the Bruins such a great franchise over so many years. And even though these are tough times that we're going through right now, that's what's going to keep us going in the future. So, that's what we're going to focus on.
All right, guys, Tommy Ragno, our guest, is ready to be here. But before we get to him, we'd like to have a quick message from our sponsor.
Folks, I got to mention a quick word from our friends over at the City of Buffalo. Their slogan is, "Come visit Buffalo. It's not as bad as you think." It's really just a great place to have.
They have the Bisons. They have a law firm. Sheer works there. They have at least a law firm.
If you have a 3-day weekend and you're thinking to yourself, where do I want to travel to?
Go to Buffalo.
Buffalo's perfect. Perfect.
Kelly's willing to move there. It couldn't be that bad.
All right, not everyone knows sheer jokes, Brian. All right, everyone, our first guest. All right, Brian, chill. You're the one always yelling when I'm talking at a rational level. Our first guest, the Jackie Robinson of Brother Bears, Tommy Ragnow. Tommy, how does it feel to be on the program?
To be honest, never been more excited about anything in my life. I imagine...
Not even when the Bruins won the Stanley Cup in 2011?
I guess that's comparable, but this is heavy stuff. This is right up there on my list of proudest moments.
Is this the pinnacle? Is this it? Is this the peak?
There's climbing Kilimanjaro, playing Pebble Beach.
Why wouldn't you say
going to Lambeau Field, and there's coming on the Brother Bears.
Who's going to Africa to climb Mount Kilimanjaro?
I went to Africa.
No, I mean, I listened to the first episode. I was a big fan. Just thrilled to have the opportunity to be the first guest.
All right. Well, it's great to have you. Brian, you had the first question.
So, Tommy, I got to ask you, how was your fourth?
It was good. I was down in Long Island at Gentiles, who many of our listeners will know.
Nice.
Yeah,
and what did you guys do?
Drank a lot. Fell down in front of a 7-Eleven. That was pretty much it.
It happens.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. I have the next question.
Sure.
Is that right? Tommy, what are you doing this summer? Why don't you tell our listeners what you do on a daily basis?
Are we really doing this? This is what you brought me on for?
Well, this is one of the things this is what we're asking you to do right now, yeah.
All right, I'm working Monday through Friday, and then playing golf with my dad on the weekends a lot.
You staying at home with the parents?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Living the dream.
Living the dream, that's good. Some people do that for a while. Brian. So, Tommy, some of the listeners are confused. They say, why is it that you're a Yankees fan when you're from Boston? Wouldn't Paul Revere just roll over in his grave if he knew about this? Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a popular question I get.
It's like Simmons being a Clippers and a Celtics fan. How's that possible?
It's kind of like that, except I feel like I have a better reason. You know, my dad being a Guinea from New Jersey raised me to be a Yankees fan from birth. Never really had much of a choice. So that's just sort of how that happened. I'm glad that we're clearing this on a broadcast with the wide viewership of Brother Bears, because I get asked this question way too much.
Wait, so your mother is from Boston?
No, my mom's from Pittsburgh.
So where's the Boston thing come in?
My dad got a job here. Moved up.
So, Tommy, before we get into specifics, I've got to ask you, how many members of the Bruins AHL roster do you have memorized?
Do I to name off the top of my head, or to...
Like, if you heard the name, you would be like, yeah, he's on the Bruins AHL team.
Probably a lot.
Over, under 10.
Probably right around there.
Wow. It's impressive.
It's impressive. You heard it here first on Brother Beers, listeners. I don't think we've explained this yet. Brian, stop me if we have. Brian has a sheet of paper out that says listeners on it, all caps, so that he will try to not forget that this is a podcast and people can't see us.
I got a little confused last time, so I wanted to make sure I cleared things up this time.
Tommy, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's just sort of
par for the course for Brian.
It was pretty clear. It was pretty clear in the first episode that the younger Pallavi is sort of doing the heavy lifting in terms of the entertainment.
We talked about that earlier.
Tommy, I want to go back to the first round of the playoffs. Bruins are down 4-1 in Game 7 versus the Leafs. What are your emotions at this point?
Well, I actually remember I was watching the game with Ginger Jack, and at a final the next
There's always
day.
a Boston guy named Ginger Jack, right?
Huh?
There's always a Boston guy named Ginger Jack.
Yeah. Well, we were so we were watching, and I had a final the next day. Actually.
Of course you did.
Typical.
So it was a pretty depressing night because obviously I wasn't studying for that, and the Bruins were tanking the entire season away. But so yeah, things looked pretty grim at that point. We had switched from beer to liquor, as you are likely to do in that scenario, and things look grim.
Tommy, Jack and I were talking about this earlier. What would the scenario need to be for you to stop watching an important Bruins game? What would need to be going on? Because I know a formal was not enough.
So the scenario I kind of had in mind, Tommy, is let's say one of your best friends is getting married. How early on in the Stanley Cup playoffs would it have to be for you to skip a Bruins game to see the wedding? I feel like if it was like game one of the final.
What about a childbirth? Would that qualify?
Oh well, childbirth.
Okay,
I'm not
so that's
I'm not an animal.
Okay, so we draw the line at childbirth, but we would consider missing an important wedding.
Your silence when we asked about the wedding clearly indicates you would not go.
Well, no, he was thinking about it.
No. I think anything up to a Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals, I would skip. Then from there, all bets are off. Hopefully, I don't have a role in the wedding.
So hypothetically, based on this information, okay, I want to throw in you're the best man. I want to throw that in. It's Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. You're really going to miss... Let's make it Max's wedding. You're going to miss Max's wedding?
Wouldn't his brother be the best man? Doesn't Max have a brother?
Who, fucking Corey, dude? Wait, what the fuck does Corey know?
I don't want to ruin my shot at being best man at that wedding by admitting here that I wouldn't be there. But if we're being realistic, I probably wouldn't be there.
All right. Tommy, as a journalist, I got to ask, what's going through your mind as the Blackhawks scored that second goal in 17 seconds? Describe the sheer panic of that moment in as much detail as possible.
It's funny. I knew you were going to ask me about that. And
Well, I told you I was going to ask you something similar to
that. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody expects, knowing Tommy, he probably, just started throwing beer bottles at his wall and,
literally exactly what I expected.
Tried to jump out a window, punched Lane, I don't know. But in reality, I was sort of just detached, shocked. I sat there, I didn't move from my spot for probably 40 minutes. Stared at a blank wall. It was pretty... That was a low point.
Do you remember what I wrote on your Facebook wall right after it happened?
Yes.
Don't do anything
rash.
Don't do anything rash, yeah. As in, don't kill anyone, don't kill yourself. Good time.
Yeah, it's the friends who get you through times like those. Might not be the first guest on Brother Beers if it wasn't for Jackie.
The Jackie Robinson of the program. You've broken down barriers. Not racial barriers, but some kind of barrier. Tommy, some say we might be watching the worst Yankee team in our lifetime. What's your take on the Yankees?
To be honest, so for the first 2-3 months of the season, even through June, even through midway through June, I was ecstatic. They were hanging in there. It was a fun team to watch. You had some likable veterans with Vernon Wells and Lyle Overbay playing above their heads, hitting some clutch home runs.
Travis Hafner.
Yeah, him. Rivera's otherworldly, has been the whole year. Yeah, so, I was really thinking it was good, but then, Teixeira, Granderson comes back and bows right back out. Teixeira comes back, bows right back out. And, I don't really care because I hate Teixeira, but when you're paying anybody that much money, you kind of need him in the lineup to have any chance. It's definitely grim when, ESPN's reporting that the Yankees are looking at Travis Ishikawa, that's going to matter. I'd say that's about when you
right after they picked up Luis Cruz off waivers.
Yeah. By the way, watching that guy try to hit against a major league pitcher, I watched the game Sunday.
He's been not that bad, but all right.
Yeah,
I'm going to take
that was terrible against Johnson.
I'm going to take the opposite non-popular perspective on the Yankees. I think they are going to make the playoffs, and here's why. Jeter, A-Rod, Grandy, all coming back. You have to assume Cashman's going to pull something off, get a Lance.
When's Granderson back?
Yeah, and I said Grandy.
When is it? No, when?
Oh, it's up in the air. They think sometime second half of the season. Those three bats, our big problem is we don't have power right now. The three of them, at least, I know Jeter's not a classic power hitter, but they provide some pop in the lineup. Cashman will add a bat. It's not going to be a superstar, but a bat. And
do you think they?
I also, sorry, just one more thing. I think the Red Sox are playing over their heads. I don't think that they're the best team in baseball. I think they're a good team, but I think they're going to come down to earth a little bit more in the second half of the season as the Yankees rise up. That's my prediction.
It's bold.
I think we win the division still.
Wow.
That's very bold.
That is bold.
That one thing that really struck me watching the games this past weekend was the Orioles lineup, top to bottom, is pretty
good.
Yes,
it's really
pretty
good.
Stacked.
Yeah,
like every single guy in that lineup.
They're pitching. They're kind of the opposite of us.
Terrible.
They're the inverse of us. Yeah, we have great pitching, can't hit. They have terrible pitching, and they have great hitters. All right, Tommy, on this subject, moving away from the Yankees because most listeners don't care.
We can talk about this all day.
Yeah, we can talk about this for hours. Chris Davis, on a 0 to 100% certainty scale, where do you rate the chances he's on steroids?
Good question.
I actually don't, and I'm going to tell you why. I put it at about 25%, and I'll tell you why.
Wow. Because the little kid asked, and he said no.
Well, no. Here's what I would say. He's always had exceptional raw power.
Mm-hmm.
If you look, and he's cut down his strikeouts a little bit, and I don't know. I don't think it's steroids because the scouting report on him has always been this guy can hit the ball 600 feet whenever he makes contact. I think maybe he cheated and got illegal LASIK to improve his eyes, but other than that, I don't know. He's otherworldly this year, though.
So, Tommy, Jack and I were discussing something earlier, which we're not sure what the correct fix is. But as they were announcing the Home Run Derby participants, Jack and I looked at each other and said, are we even going to watch this? No. This is the most boring exhibition of professional sports on television. How could they possibly fix this horrible event?
Well, one way would be moving it from total home runs to total distance.
I like that.
I like it right away.
Because then you just have dudes coming in to mash.
I like that a lot.
I want the listeners to know Tommy was not prepped with this question. He came up with that on the spot. I love it. I think it's a great suggestion.
To be honest, I think the only thing I'm going to watch is till Bryce Harper has his first round. Just because.
I want to see Chris Davis now.
That's true.
I have another idea. I've probably heard it on TV, but that apparently there's a bunch of pitchers that crush in batting practice.
Pitchers division?
A pitcher's home run derby. I've heard Justin Verlander is allegedly an incredible home run hitter. Obviously, CeCe has a ton of power. I would find that much more entertaining than watching people hit home runs all the time, hit softballs 450 feet.
How about this?
Yeah.
Buster Only versus Tim Kirkchin. I'd watch it.
No, I would not watch that.
Get Crocky away from
Get
the
Crocky
buffet
in
and a couple.
Oh, man. Distract him with some food.
Someone, after last night Carlos Gomez catch, someone on ESPN had discussed a home run, like, robbing contest. But I don't really know how that would work.
Stupid.
Yeah, it's kind of cheesy.
It was J.A. Adonde.
What is more boring, the slam dunk contest or the home run derby?
Slam dunk contest, hands down.
Is more boring.
None of the good players do it anymore.
Wow.
LeBron's not in it.
True.
I mean, plus
What about Jeremy Evans?
All right, Simmons. That was a Simmons, right?
Yeah, that was a Simmons.
Is that what you're doing?
No good.
No, it was good. I don't know. I mean, I'm also biased. I'm just not a basketball guy.
What do you see as the best case scenario for the Celtics? This is what I'm thinking. They get Durant. Phil Jackson comes back to coach. LeBron opts out of Miami.
Takes the minimum.
Takes the minimum. Comes to the Celtics.
And then we get Josh Smith.
And then they win 17 championships in a row.
That's the worst case scenario in the Celtics.
Don't forget that all happens after they tank next year and trade Rondo for picks and draft Andrew Wiggins.
They're in the Wiggins sweepstakes. They absolutely are.
Why? They don't have any cap space.
They'll trade Rondo.
They'll figure something out. They're not cheap. Someone said that in this last podcast.
Nice. Do we have any other questions for Tommy?
Yeah, I had one more question for Thomas Ragno.
Is that Tommy? What is the birth certificate name?
Thomas.
Thomas. All right.
Tommy is not a junior, although his father is also Tom. Is that correct, Tommy?
That is correct.
How is that decision? As two ignorant Jews who aren't familiar with the naming,
His dad didn't have a middle name, so he gave Tommy a middle name.
so it's not.
So
He can't be junior.
He's technically not a junior, but they're both Tom.
Could your son be considered the third?
I mean, I've been saying forever, I'm going to throw a third on my son's name.
You got to ask
no-brainer.
Leroy these questions.
That's a no-brainer, you know, like, my kid wants to get a job, he walks in Thomas Garrett Ragnar the third, like, he's getting that job.
Tommy, your last question's a softball. What's your take on Gary Bettman? Keep in mind, Brian almost dated his daughter.
Oh, well, I'll temper my comments there.
No, please go ahead.
No, the opposite. It didn't work out at all for Brian. Worked out for her.
There's a great Chris Chelios video on YouTube. I don't
He
know.
just
if
made
you
the
guys
Hall of
have seen
Fame.
it. Yes, he did make the Hall of Fame today. That's what I was getting to. That was sort of why I brought it up. Where he has some choice words about Bettman. I'm pretty sure he says something along the lines of, you know, if he keeps locking us out, he better watch out. Some crazy fan or something might show up at his house with a gun.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
You can imagine if he said that 15 years later, the kind of buzz. But I mean, you know, it couldn't be clearer, really, to me. You know, he's a business guy, doesn't care about the fans, doesn't care about the team, teams, players.
Yeah, but to a certain extent, so is Roger Goodell. He just has a better product. Not better, sorry. I meant more popular, profitable product.
Yeah.
So just
Roger Goodell also didn't lock the players out.
They
twice
did. Yes,
in the
they did.
last, Twice in the last 10 years.
once.
Once.
And it was an entire season.
Well, David Stern did, and he's considered like a great commissioner.
He gets
That's because
booed.
David Stern is the Vince McMahon of real sports.
Yeah, that's well said.
He got booed during even second round picks. Who stands for second round picks?
Me and Jay Potts did.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you were there.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good time.
Jay Potts has even more of a hard on for Simmons than Brian.
So, Tommy, I was in Ocean City, Maryland with Jay Potts for the 4th.
Yeah.
And so you go out in Boston, you go out in Ithaca, you go out in New York, and you look like a preppy dude. You're a dime a dozen, and, you know, everyone is of nearly equal attractiveness to you. It's hard to stand out. Ocean City is a whole nother animal. Literally, by wearing a polo collared shirt, girls will come up to you and say, "Thank God I found someone normal here." Like, oh my gosh, you're clearly like a nice guy. I'm like, oh, guess what? I don't have any tattoos either. They're like, oh wow, that's amazing.
He's a keeper. He's marriage material. Except
this is like the angle I've tried to play my whole life, except like I wound up looking like a dad instead of like.
It literally is an incredible place. It's so trashy that by being normal, you come across as incredible to half the girls.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, Tommy, I think that's all we've got for right now.
Best guest we've ever had.
I give my performance a 5. It was average. It was pedestrian. I'm sorry to the listeners.
Wrong.
I know you expected a lot more out of me.
Wrong. Much higher than a 5. You wouldn't even hook up with a 5. 5's terrible.
Tommy, we had fun, and we'll have to have you on again sometime to talk hockey in the fall.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe a season preview.
I would love that.
Love the show, boys. Keep up the good work.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We had a good time talking hockey, and I tried to stay in my role, play that Chris Bosh role on this team, and let Jack be LeBron. I hope I did a good job.
Hope you guys enjoyed the pod.
See you next week.